We are live. Good afternoon and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. From a cold winter day here in Irving, Texas. We just got through with the Arctic blast of 2026. Hopefully there won't be another one. We don't deal with that too well here in Texas. This is not Chicago. Well, I mean, if you're from up north, you thought this was nothing, but anyway. Today, we're discussing the rebellion of Korah. And Lucy, this might be a partial answer to your question earlier when you asked him to study. Maybe it will. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But nonetheless, the rebellion, because there's some implications in other scriptures today that we're going to examine today. Now, the rebellion of Korah will be found in number 16. If you'll all turn there and open up, please. Because what we are going to do is compare the rebellion of Korah with another rebellion we know about. The rebellion we read about in Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14. And of course, where else? Can we say Revelation, everybody? Because it's an amazing type of this rebellion, and we read about in number 16 and compare to these other places in scriptures. And between Korah, the chief of the Levites of all people, because we're going to discuss a little bit about his credentials as well. And guess who? Guess who? Anybody else? Amazing correlation or how Korah is an amazing type of guess who in later chapters of Scripture? We'll see. Tino's nodding his head. Okay, so let's open this up, please. To number 16. Now, you're going to need to mark your place here in Numbers, okay? Because we're going to be turning to a few other pages as well. But open up to number 16 and mark it. Number 16, verse 1. Now Korah the son of Izhar, son of Kohath, the sons of Levi, with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On the son of Peleth, and the sons of Reuben, took men. And they rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, representatives of the congregation, men of renown. We've heard that phrase before, men of renown, haven't we? And it's never, when we read this phrase a couple of times in Scripture, it's not, most of the time, it's not a good thing, is it? No. Some of us know where we're good. We're having a good idea where we're going. Yeah, because a lot of times it's bad news. Okay, so we're going to stop here a moment and let's discuss a couple of things we need to know about these, as revealed in these first two verses. We're going to discuss briefly Korah's lineage and his credentials. And then we're going to take time out to compare them to someone else's credentials, if you will. Now, Korah was born a Korahite, a descendant of Kohath. So he was one of the Kohath Levites. And he was from a descendant of one of the three sons of Levi, which is found in Exodus 6. Keep your place here. Numbers, hold your place. Let's try Exodus 6. Let's just see exactly what Exodus 6 might say. And he is found in the family lineage here. This lineage here. And let's pick it up in verse 18. The sons of Kohath were Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. And the years of the life of Kohath were 133. Dropping down to verse 21. The sons of Issachar were Korah, Nepheg, and Zikri. So he has a very prominent lineage, and it's a Levitical lineage from the family of Levi. They will be prominent. They might be prominent just yet at that point in the story back in Exodus, but here they become. We'll see that it becomes. He has a very prominent position, not only in Israel but within the house of Levi as well. So we know his lineage. It goes all the way. They can trace it all the way back into Exodus, even before the Israelites were set free. And they rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation. These weren't nobody. He said they were leaders of the congregation. These were prominent men to one extent or another. Even captains of 5, captains of 10, captains of however many it was. When Jethro advised Moses on how to handle all the issues he was dealing with coming out of the Exodus, these were prominent men to some level or another. Representatives of the congregation, so they weren't just anybody. They weren't just cowboys like me, men of renown. Now, part of this. Now, what do we know about his stake in Levi? Well, he was one of the Levites. We read this here. But he was a very special group. He was actually quite prominent within the Levitical community because he was, for lack of a better phrase, this man had a position. It was quite high within the Levitical community, and it was virtually next to the priesthood. Because what was the mission of his household within the house of Levi? Because this part of the group was responsible for carrying all the holy furnishings of the tabernacle. And this task did require lots of precision and reverence. You didn't do things just any willy-nilly old way. That didn't happen. Because let's consider something. What happened to the men of Uzziah went back in the days of David when they handled the ark themselves? They died. So they had to wait for the proper Levites to show up, didn't they? And handling the caretakers of all the holy things of the tabernacle, the temple and the tabernacle. Guess who they called on? They called on the Levites, not just any old Levi from anywhere, but they had to call on the ones responsible for the handling of the tabernacle. These grandsons of greats, however many greats, descended from Korah, his descendants, because that was their job. Because it's kind of like, for a lack of a better analogy, you need your air conditioning fixed on your truck, on your car. Do you take it to see a collision specialist? You know, the guy who can replace your fender, who can do the paint and body work on your car? Or do you go to a real mechanic? You got a problem with your vision. You don't go see a family practitioner, do you? If you he's going to refer you to an optometrist, isn't he? Specialist of the eye. Same principle I know it's not perfect, but hope it explains the concept. Because let's look how we know this. Let's check this out. Let's check. His credentials are, in fact, explained in Torah. Let's please take a look at Numbers 4, shall we? Numbers 4. Numbers chapter 4, let's take it from the top. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron and said, take a census of the sons of Kohath. That's interesting, sons of Kohath, from amongst the children of Levi, their families by their household. Because who's in this lineage? I didn't hear it, but who's in this lineage? Korah. From 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, who entered service to do the work of the tabernacle of meeting. This is the service of the sons of Kohath in the tabernacle of meeting, relating to the most holy things. And when the camp prepares to journey, Aaron and his sons shall come. They shall take down the covering and the veil and cover the ark of the testimony with it. Then they will put a covering on of badger skins that's spread over the cloth entirely of blue, and shall insert its poles. On the table of the showbread they shall spread a blue cloth and put on the dishes, the pans, the bowls, the pitchers for pouring, and the showbread all shall be on it. And they shall spread them over a scarlet cloth and cover the same with the covering of badger skins, and they shall insert its poles. They shall take a blue cloth and cover the lampstand of the light with its lamps, its wicker trimmers, its trays, all its oil vessels in which they service. So that they shall put it with all its utensils of covering of badger skins, and they shall be carrying them. Notice it says badger skins. And over the golden altar they shall spread a blue cloth and covering with the covering of badger skins, and they shall insert its poles. And they shall take all the utensils of service at which they minister in the sanctuary, and put them in blue cloth, and cover them with the covering of badger skins, and put them on the carrying beam. And they shall take away the ashes from the altar, and spread a purple cloth over it. And they shall put on it all its implements, which they minister there: the fire pans, the forks, the shovels, the basins, all the utensils of the altar. And they shall spread it on a covering of badger skins, and insert its poles. And when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary with all the coverings of the sanctuary, when the camp is set to go, the sons of Kohath shall come to carry them, but they shall not touch any holy thing, lest they die. These are the things of the tabernacle of the meeting which the sons of Kohath are to carry. So they weren't to even just handle these things any which old way. They didn't call, 4 guys movers. They had to handle this stuff as prescribed way, and even then they were only the only ones who did it. They had to do it in a certain manner. So with all the handling, all the ministering of all the holy objects within this temple and the tabernacle, they were in that position that they were pretty much of all the Leviticals priests, all the Levitical assistants, they were the highest up next to the actual, priesthood itself, just underneath Aaron and his sons. If you want to go see somebody about higher than them, you had to go see them. So they had a very prominent rank. Now, let's ask a question here before we go on to any questions or comments so far on what we've covered here. Because if not, let's try somebody else has a special set of credentials, don't they? Can we turn to Ezekiel 28, please. Ezekiel 28. We see somebody else has some very high credentials as well. Ezekiel 28. And let's read a few verses out of there. Ezekiel 28, beginning with verse 11. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre, and say to him. Does that sound strange? King, doesn't it? But we're going to see here, this is not an earthly figure. This guy's not a man. Because in the first 10 verses, we see of Ezekiel 28, I didn't make note of this, but the prophecy is against, the first 10 verses is a prophecy against the prince of Tyre. And I did not make a note of the Hebrew word, but it's different from the Hebrew word found for king. Here in verse 12, the word for king is Melech. And I failed to make note for the word, but it works well in both the English and the Hebrew, because who's a higher rank, a king or a prince? Prince or a king? A king's higher. Because if you're the son of a king, what are you? You're the prince. And we had this, remember a few years ago how we had this haggling back and forth between the king of England, the king of, or the queen, how we got this royal haggling, what we got right now, over the sons of the king? Him and his brother, how you got two princes that can't get along. It's comical every time you see a story about them and standing in the grocery line, don't you, isn't it? Oh, they're at it again. But in any case, so Quran is correct. The king is a higher rank. And that's true in both the English and the Hebrew. Moreover, says, Son of man, take a lamentation for the king of Tyre and say thus to Yahweh, you were the seal of perfection. You were full of wisdom, and you were perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of Elohim. Every precious stone was your covering. The sardius, the topaz, the diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. So he had his own princely garments, if you will. He had his princely garments. He wasn't given just, a set of work clothes like you see and just a common set of work clothes, a work uniform, like you see the delivery man in. Verse 14. You were the anointed cherub who covers it. So we're told this is not a man. This king of Tyre is not a man. And I established you. You were on the holy mountain of Elohim when you walked back and forth in the midst of the fiery stones. That don't sound like a man to me. I'd hurt myself if I had to walk back and forth across fiery stones. I wouldn't want to do that. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created until iniquity was found in you. So we know who this was. The one we know today is Satan. He was created perfectly, so we know Yahweh did not create a devil. There goes that out the window right there. We can throw that idea in the trash. It's so simple. It's what it says. He was created perfect in his ways. It's one of these things, either we believe it or we don't, like David used to say. Yes, I stole that from David. He had a way of saying it that he had this way of saying that no one else can copy. I can't say it like he does, but I do with it the best I can. Oh, it's just a baby. Okay. Thought I heard a noise. It's just a baby. So, can we continue just a little bit in here? Let's see, where did I leave off? By the abundance of, tell iniquity is found in you, verse 16. By the abundance of your trading, you became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore I cast you out as a profane thing out of the mountain of Elohim. And I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the fiery stones. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. He corrupted it. Yahweh didn't make him imperfect. He was perfect, remember? And I cast you to the ground. I laid you before kings that they might gaze at you. And you defiled your sanctuaries. We'll come into that in a little bit too. By the multitude of your iniquities and by the iniquity of your trade. See, everything was messed up by his iniquity. Therefore I brought fire from your midst, and it devoured you. And I turned you into ashes upon the earth, in the sight of all who saw you, and all who knew you amongst the peoples are astonished at you, and you become a horror, and you shall be no more forever. Okay, but what's that got to do with Korah? Let's go back to Numbers, please. Let us go back to Numbers, number 16. So he's gathering up his group of men. And we'll see later this king of Tyre doesn't go alone, by the way. We'll see about that later, about him a little later. He gathered together. Verse 10, they rose up with Moses, some children of 250 leaders of the congregation, representatives from the congregation of renown. Verse 3, they gathered together against Moses and Aaron. And they said to them, well, you take too much. Here they go with this marketing, this insider trading that we read about, right? You take too much of yourself because all the congregation is holy, every one of them. And Yahweh is amongst them too. So why do you exalt yourselves from above the assembly of Yahweh? Question was, now, Korah, did he just flat out lie to these people, or was he twisting the truth in some way, form, or fashion? He was taking principles that were true and just twisting them like a rag. That's what we're going to see here. Because holding your place here, let us see Exodus 19. Hold your place in Numbers. Let's turn to Exodus 19. We'll check out verses 5 and 6. I know I go there a lot, but we're going there one more time. Exodus 19, verses 5 and 6. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. All the words. These are the words which you will speak to the children of Israel. Can we check out, please, a passage or two in Deuteronomy? Tino, I think you referred to some of these. Deuteronomy 4, verse 20. But Yahweh has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace, out of Egypt, to be his people, an inheritance, as you are this day. Deuteronomy 4, verse 20. Here, what? Let's try Deuteronomy 7, verse 6. For you are a holy people unto Yahweh, your Elohim. For Yahweh, your Elohim, has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples on the face of the earth. Let's try Deuteronomy 14:2. For you are a holy people to Yahweh your Elohim, and Yahweh himself has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples on the face of the earth. One more. Deuteronomy, saying again in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 26, verse 18. Also today, Yahweh has proclaimed you to be his special people, just as he promised you that you should keep all his commandments. And that he will set you, verse 19, he will set you above all the nations which he has made, in praise, in name, in honor, that you may be a holy people to Yahweh your Elohim, just as he has spoken. So, he was in fact, not technically, not lying, but what was he doing? He was taking the truth and just twisting it all up, wasn't he? You're taking too much on yourself. Any question or comment so far from anyone? Okay.
Forsake the spirit of the king in himself, and he felt that he wasn't being exalted where he should have been exalted.
Oh yes, we will be going there.
Yeah, speak up where he doesn't have to. And I don't know if you're going to go there too, but I don't know if that's part of your theme of things. But did you have Jeremiah 33 on as you're talking about special treasures and set apart priesthood?
Go ahead.
It just came to me in Jeremiah 33 too. This is verse 20 and 21. It says, "Thus said Yahweh, if you could break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so that there be not day and night in their season, then my covenant could also be broken with David, my servant, so that he shall not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites, the priests, my attendants." Right? It kind of keeps on going, repeating the same thing in 33, right? But it's the covenant with David, not just David, but and the Levites, right? And he says there will be none to cease sitting on his throne.
That's right.
But he also, it's kind of just a focus point maybe that I've overlooked in the past, but just that the Levites are included in that.
That's
and then
correct.
You tie back to the, the set apart priesthood that we are. And Yeshua echoes the same thing, right? That's who he's made us. So
you're correct.
Together in that.
So when Korah made those remarks about all the people being holy, that's exactly what he was doing. He was marketing, just like this other fellow, like Satan had done. And the same iniquity, both shared the same iniquity. Amongst them, the spirit of jealousy. We could talk forever widely about that, but that could be, somebody might want to give that as another study, but the point is, the bottom line is they had the same spirit. Verse 4, going back to number 16. When Moses heard it, he fell on his face, and he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, "Well, tomorrow morning Yahweh will show who he is, or who is his, and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. The one whom he chooses he will cause to come near to him. Now do this, take your censers, Korah and all your company, and put fire in them." So they're all taking censers full of fire. Who and what are these people that are following him? Priests. Yes, it's priests and fellow. You're right. Who said that? You. I thought that was you, Tino. I thought it was Tino. Yeah, you know what? You're right, Tino. It's priests and fellow Levites, the very prominent ones. Imagine that.
They were the ones that had the censors.
That's right.
They were the ones who was in charge of those things.
That's right. Wasn't just some ordinary. It wasn't Joe the milkman, or the guy working at the gas station. No. It was very high-ranking, very influential people, the ones of renown. He aimed high when he gathered his company. So just take your censers, put fire on them, and put incense, verse 7, and put them before Yahweh tomorrow, and it shall be that the man Yahweh chooses is the Holy One. But it is you who take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi. Right? So there's no guessing who these are now. They're all the sons of Levi. And Moses said unto Korah, now hear now, you sons of Levi. This is a warning. This is one last chance for them to change their mind. Is it a small thing to you that the Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of Yahweh, and to stand before the congregation and to serve them? And as that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you. Are you seeking the priesthood also? What's the answer? Yes. That and a whole lot more. They're not just stopping with the priesthood. It is, in fact, a whole lot more. Because now, in certain ways, proverbially speaking, we're starting to see a pattern, like father, like son, proverbially speaking, right? And whose footsteps are they following? In a matter of speaking, their dads. Chip off the old block. And we read about quite a bit of detail about this in Isaiah 14. Turn there, please. Isaiah, the 14th chapter. Let's pick it up in verse 12, shall we? Isaiah, the 14th chapter. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. And how you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. You who weaken a nation. Well, now Korah didn't exactly weaken the nations with his rebellion. It is Lucifer here, it says, who weakened the nations. But he definitely weakened the house of Israel, didn't he, with his rebellion? He certainly weakened all the various tribes of Israel. For you have said in your heart, here's the iniquity, you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim, and I will sit on the mount of the congregation on the further side of the north, and I will descend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High. So, yes, they were seeking the priesthood and a whole lot more. Remember, who else was with him? He had Abiram, and it was Dathan. So those were your three ringleaders. Korah was your front man. Yes. So now, if Korah is essentially, if he's seeking the priesthood, undoubtedly, what are these other two fellows in this company seeking? Could they be seeking the positions of Moses and Aaron? It's entirely It's entirely plausible, isn't it? The two main ringleaders that come up with him. Imagine that. Any question or comment so far? But in any case, we know how this ends up. Because there's an interesting phenomenon going on about these censers that we read when Moses, back in number 16, tells the Levites, all Korah's company, not just necessarily all the Levites, but all those in Korah's company, to bring their censers. It's very interesting. Because keep your place in Numbers, and guess where else we're going? We're going to Revelation 8. Revelation 8. 8. Revelation 8. Revelation 8, verse 1. And when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Now, I don't know if this, I truly don't know how literal this silence of about half an hour is. But I do know it's certainly symbolic. Now, whether it's literal or not, I can't say. But when you're an eternal being in heaven, time doesn't mean too much, I don't think. Nonetheless, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour, and I saw the seven angels who stand before Elohim, verse 2. And to them were given seven trumpets, and then another angel, having what? A golden censer, stood at the altar. He was given much incense that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before Elohim from the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it to the earth. There was noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. The seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared to sound. Now let's ask a question here. This may sound rather strange, but taking of a censer with fire in it, who did that anciently? That was a priestly activity. Only priests could do that, right? That was strictly within the priests, right? So I mean, if you weren't a priest, you had no business handling this stuff. But yet we have one here, it says in heaven, handling a censer. And it's not numerous. It's just one. Who is this unidentified angel? He's performing I gave you a hint. He's performing a priestly activity. Who could this be? Quran, you win the prize. It's Melchizedek. He's the only one authorized to do such a thing at this point, isn't he? And at this point in the story in Revelation, that's still the case. Quran, you're correct. It's Melchizedek. You're absolutely spot on, Quran. You win the prize. Ding, ding, ding. Yes. No, Quran is correct. Because if where in Scripture do we read of any other angels having any type of, lack of a better phrase, priestly authority? We don't. 2 words, we don't. Yes, Tino.
Luke chapter 1, verse 10 and 11.
Go ahead.
Also supports this.
Okay, feel free.
It says, verse 10, and the multitude of the people were praying. You know what? Let me start up a little bit because I think this.
All right, you do
more
that.
Context.
Please.
So let's go to verse 8. And it came to pass that while he was executing the priest's office before Elohim, and this is Elizabeth and this was Zacharias.
Zacharias.
Okay, so in verse 8, and it came to pass when he was executing the priest's office before Elohim in the order of his course, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of Elohim. Verse 10. And the whole multitude of the people were praying without at the time of incense. Verse 11. And there appeared unto him an angel of Elohim standing on the right side of the altar of incense. Zachariah saw him and was troubled, and he feared and fell upon him. And let me read verse 13 of context. But the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zachariah, for the prayer is heard, and your wife Elizabeth shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Yohanan.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this speaks to that angel. This might have been Melchizedek here as well.
Well, he's with a priest.
Yeah.
Who else lawfully can come in on a priestly exercise? Could anybody just come in? You're right, Tino. Not just anybody gets to do that. Guess so that narrows it. It doesn't say it specifically, but when we think about it, like you brought up, line on line, precept on precept, consult the whole word. Yes, and there we have a very short, extremely short list of who this could be, don't we?
Yeah, it is interesting because when you think about these things, the handling of the things that belong to the priesthood, like you said, you just can't be willy-nilly dealing with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, that's what got Saul in trouble.
That's right.
When he tried to do that sacrifice. You know what I mean? So he tried to do that, and that's what Samuel told him. You did foolishly.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't supposed to touch. You weren't supposed to do any of those. It doesn't belong to you.
That's
Time
right.
to time, these kings, they try to do those sacrifices themselves, handle some of the priest office duties, and they go, Yahweh just immediately humbles them for doing that.
If they do that, it is a pattern says he's through with them.
Right, he's done. Right.
Same thing with touching
Saul
the ark.
tried to take off the axe.
Those who were carrying the ark, you couldn't. It was
That's
select
right.
people. Right.
When you take that on yourself, yeah, that's when Yahweh decides he's through with you.
Which is okay, right? You don't need to carry the jealousy because that's a burden enough that they can have themselves, right? It's good enough to be in the house, right? You know,
reasons are adding up, don't we? Anyone else? Anyone? So it's not looking good for Korah so far, is it? Let's go back to Numbers 16. Because we've read it all, so far it's all bad news for those folks, and it's going to go from bad to worse. So we read in both Ezekiel and Isaiah that this uprising, the ones we read up in Ezekiel and Isaiah, they were up against Yahweh themselves. So who is Korah and his company really rising up against? Is it really just Moses and Aaron? Let's look. Verse 10. So he has brought you near to himself, that you have all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you. Are you seeking the priesthood also? That and a whole lot more is the answer. Therefore, you and all your company are gathered against Yahweh. And what is Aaron that you are to complain against him? Remember, they're complaining, these people are, the initial complaint up here was against Moses and Aaron. Moses reveals it plainly that Yahweh is really the target. Because Moses and Aaron play a role in types too here. Now, in type, who are Moses and Aaron's types of? Remember, who was the spokesman? Who told who to say what? Now, and for type, in their relationship, Moses and Aaron, wasn't Moses persistently a type of the Father? And Aaron, the high priest, wasn't he, what would that make him? A type of who? Speak up. Yeshua. In what role? The priest. Yes, you're right. Imagine that. I mean, the shoe fits real well, doesn't it? Had a buddy named Willie Harkless. I know some of y'all remember this fellow. Willie Harkless? Yeah, I know you do. Remember Willie real well. He said that a lot, didn't he? Does the shoe fit? He said that a lot. Oh, the shoe's fitting very well here. And Moses said to call Dathan and Abiram, verse 12, the sons of Eliab, but they said, no, we're not coming. We will not come up. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us off in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? No, we will not come up. They're refusing. So they have a role in this. They got a role in this too. There it is right there, your unholy trinity. Abiram, Dathan, and Korah. Then Moses was very angry, and he said unto Yahweh, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I heard any of them. And Moses said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company be present before Yahweh, you and they, as well as Aaron. So they're going to show up. Moses and Aaron are going to show up too. 17, let each take his censer and put incense in it. Each of you bring a censer before Yahweh, 250 censers. Both you and Aaron each will fill their censer. So Aaron was to fill his censer, and the rest of Korah's company was to fill their censers. Now remember what we read of in Revelation 8? How many angels did we see filling up a censer? One. So we got 250 rebels and one high priest. How many high priests we got here? In Numbers? One. Matches up with our Revelation 8 very well, doesn't it? So who else can do this other than a high priest? I got a little ahead of myself. Every man took his censer and put fire in it, verse 18, laid incense to it, stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Korah gathered all the congregation against, now Korah's calling for reinforcements here. And Korah gathered all the congregation against him at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the glory of Yahweh appeared to all the congregation. And Moses spoke unto Aaron, saying, now separate yourselves from amongst this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. But they fell on their faces and said, O Elohim, the mighty one of the spirits of all flesh. Shall one man sin and you be angry with the whole congregation? So Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak to the congregation, saying, Get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Then Moses went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of the congregation followed him. He spoke to the congregation, saying, Now depart now from those tents of those wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. It doesn't just say in their sin, for it says all their sins. Now why would it be all their sins? Because it's all their sins that added up to this moment, isn't it? So they got away from the tents of Korah, Dathan and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their sons, and their kids. And Moses said to them, Now, by this you will know that Yahweh has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. Now these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by a common fate of all men, then Yahweh has not sent me. But if Yahweh creates a new thing, and the earth opens up and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, they will go down alive into the pit. We'll read more about that shortly. Read more about life into the pit, and you'll understand that these men have rejected Yahweh. So Moses and Aaron really aren't the targets, are they? Not so much. It's Yahweh. Here it is. We got this. We got these high-ranking priests just underneath, the sons of Aaron, the ones designated to be the high priest. We got these priests that handle all the most holy things, do all the most holy, the holiest of all holy work done in the tabernacle. We got these people rising up against him, and their problem is with Yahweh. Now it came, verse 31. Now it came to pass, as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground split from underneath them, and the earth opened his mouth and swallowed them up with their households, and all the men with Korah and all their goods. So they and all those went with them alive into the pit, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from among the assembly. And then all of Israel who were around them fled at their cry, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up also. And a fire came up from Yahweh, verse 35, and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, to pick up the censers out of the blaze, for they are holy, and scatter the fire some distance away. Take the censers of these men who sinned against their own souls, and let them be made into hammered plates as a covering for the altar, because they presented them before Yahweh, and therefore they are holy, and they shall be a sign to the children of Israel. So Eleazar took the bronze censer, which those who were burned up had presented, and they were hammered out as a covering on the altar, to be a memorial of the children of Israel, that no outsider who is not a descendant of Aaron should come near to offer incense before Yahweh, that he might not become like Korah and his companions, just as Yahweh had said to him through Moses. So where does this fit into the pattern of Satan's rebellion? Let us turn, please. We read part of the outcome in both Ezekiel and Isaiah about somebody being destroyed. Now, let's turn to Revelation 20, shall we? Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. He said, and he laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the bottomless pit, shut him up, set a seal upon him, so that he should deceive the nations no more, until the 1,000 years were finished. But after these things he must be released for a little while. So here we have Satan deceiving the whole world, reads of here. Who did Korah deceive? The house of Israel, the Levites. Because let's back up to Revelation, a few chapters. Because there's a little more here that describes this. Revelation 12. Let's pick it up in verse 3, please. Oh, let's go ahead and take it from the top. Revelation, that's just 12. Let's start from the top. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. And then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Verse 3. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 diadems on his head, and his tail drew out 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. Question. We got this dragon. He's already been identified as that serpent of old, Satan the devil. And this right here we're told he drags down 1/3 of the angels. He took 1/3 of the stars of heaven, which have earlier been identified as angels. So he takes 1/3 of the angels with him. He takes his entire band with him. Doesn't this agree with Korah taking his entire band with him? Do we see the fit and the parallel, the same pattern in these two accounts? Tino, do you have something? I think your wheels are turning.
No, I agree. I see the pattern. It totally lines up. Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to, rebellion, it goes back to what you were reading in Numbers, where it said they had sinned against their own hearts, their own souls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at the core of it. So I was thinking about that, and when you read this here, yeah, it's totally the same parallel. Starts from that dragon, Satan. When he read those verses in Jeremiah or Ezekiel, it just makes total sense. Like you can't get away from around it.
And both have the same end.
Yep, both have the same end. And also it's interesting too, like you think about the earth swallowing up on Korah and all those 250 people, like you think about it, like that's still something that happens today when the earth itself, falls in the sinkholes. I imagine like what that would have looked like, 250 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty big hole, swallowing up people. But it's just interesting, like that's what they decided. They got it. I wouldn't judge them. Yeah, that's about all I have on that. But yeah, it's definitely a pattern.
It is definitely a pattern. There's no doubt about that. So it is, in fact, so what we read of here in these accounts in Scripture, in the Torah, and other places, they're not just stories, they're not just simple Bible stories that tell They're not just simple Bible stories that people can't get anything out of, because this book was knit together over a period of 1,500 years or so, approximately, by however many authors, several authors. And these patterns just develop, they come out. So we know it wasn't just some guy's imagination somewhere. It wasn't some guy writing some science fiction, some Star Wars or Star Trek type movie. No. These have very powerful lessons for us. Anyone else have any question or comment? Because if not, actually the story continues just a little bit. Let's read number 17. Let's go back to number 16, please. Let's pick it up in verse 41. Now the next day, all the congregation of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, saying, "Oh, you killed them all. You killed the people of Yahweh. You done it." After all they'd seen and seen with their own eyes, heard with their own ears, they're grousing, they're complaining, they're crying over Korah and his company. Now it happened when the congregation had gathered against Moses and Aaron. Oh, see, now it's because they're dead and gone. Yahweh decided who was who. And now they're gathering against Moses and Aaron. As they turned toward the tabernacle of meeting, and suddenly a cloud covered it, and the glory of Yahweh appeared. Then Moses and Aaron came before the tabernacle of meeting. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Now get away from amongst this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." And they fell on their faces. So Moses said to Aaron, "Take a censer and here we go again. Take a censer, put fire in it from the altar, and put incense on it, and take it quickly to the congregation, and make atonement for them, for the wrath has gone out from Yahweh. The plague has begun." Then Aaron took it as Moses had commanded, and ran to the midst of the assembly. And already the plague had begun amongst the people. So he put in the incense and made atonement for all the people. Then he stood between the dead and the living. So the plague was stopped. Now those who died in the plague were 14,700, besides those who had died in the Korah incident. So Aaron returned to Moses at the door of the tabernacle of meeting, for the plague had stopped. So their actions, even after Korah and his company had been disposed of, they still had problems within the house of Israel, didn't they? Now that people were gathering against Moses and Aaron. You know what, Korah, you're right. They didn't learn a thing. You are absolutely correct. They didn't learn a thing. In spite of seeing it all with their own eyes, they didn't see a thing. After what they'd heard, nothing's in one ear, out the other, as we say.
Is that a part of our being stiff-necked?
Yes, I would be a part of being stiff-necked, absolutely. Stiff-necked and stubborn, I would tend to agree.
I mean, to just see around swallow people.
You would think they would get the message.
Same reason, and then you turn around and want to rush it.
No more than a day after. It's like I've heard my whole life. Some people just don't learn. So, now we realize these types, it's an amazing type so far, but one thing we know we have to remember about types, they are inherently imperfect, correct? Now, let's turn back to Revelation 20 a moment, please. What happens there? Let's pick it up in verse 7. Now, when 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison. They will go out to deceive the nations, in which in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog together in the battle, whose number is the sand of the sea. And they went up to the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints, their beloved city, and fire came down from Elohim out of heaven and devoured them. The devil who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophets were. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Now, if they're cast into the lake of fire, Satan and all his company are thrown into the lake of fire, just like Korah and his company were all swallowed up. After all they'd seen, the people had time to sleep on this, think over what had happened. They rejected. They wanted to just have an old West style, lynching of Moses and Aaron. What happens in Revelation 20? After everything people had seen for the past 1,000 years, what do they want to do? They want to storm the holy city. And a rebellion has to be stopped. It's an amazing pattern, isn't it? Anyone else have any question, any comment? Well, if there's no more question or comment, we'll close here. But I'm telling you, they're just amazing types, amazing things to learn from all these accounts we read of in Scripture. And the amazing, I'm just dumbstruck when I come. I'm totally dumbstruck by all of these when I find them. Anyone else? If there's no question and comment, we'll close here. And we'll have a closing song. And who's up next week? I don't remember. I don't either. Anyway, come back here with us for the Bible study at 1 o'clock, and we'll pick up in Romans 9, is it? Yeah, Romans 9. Yeah, whoever has it, I don't remember who has the study. I don't have it written down, but they will back here at 1 o'clock next Sabbath.